Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 here, where I talk about my top 10 favorite live action Marvel Comics movies of all time. This is something I've really been wanting to talk about for quite some time. Yesterday, I talked about my top 10 favorite live action DC Comics movies. So today, I'm going to be talking about the Marvel side of the comic book movies. And while I know there has been a ton of great Marvel Comics movies of all time, but I can only talk about so many. But before I give you my top 10, let me give you a few honorable mentions. But hold on one second. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, before I get into my top 10, let me give you guys a few honorable mentions. Number one is John Favreau's Iron Man from 2008. Of course, everyone know that this is the movie that really kickstarted the Marvel Cinematic Universe and also prepared Iron Man to not only massive levels of popularity, but to A-list status. And I absolutely love this movie with a passion. It's without question one of my favorite comic book films of all time. It's definitely one of the best ones that I've ever seen over the years. And I still forever hold near and dear Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man portrayal of Iron Man near and dear to my heart. And it's something that I think a lot of people should consider. Not only is it a great movie, but an historically great movie as well, because to me, it's just that damn good of a movie. Number two is James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy for 2014. Now, for you guys, for those of you who are unaware, I'm a huge fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, which is a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe franchise. And while I think the entire trilogy as a whole is awesome, I think the best installment of James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy is the first one. The first one to me is really outstanding. The characters, the characterization, the character development, the cast of the cast, the chemistry between the characters. I mean, just everything about that movie just really is awesome. Plus, a lot of people thought this was going to be a failure, but it turned out to be a huge hit for Marvel Studios. It's turned to be a huge hit for Marvel Studios, but also for comic book movies in general. So there's that. Number three of my honorable mentions is Spider-Man: No Way Home, the last live-action Spider-Man movie that came out in recent years. I love this movie, although this was definitely a movie that I wasn't expecting. In some ways, I would expect it to be more similar to the Identity Crisis story arc, where Spider-Man used a multitude of costumes to, you know, dissuade the public from thinking that Peter Parker and Spider-Man were the same person. I was not expecting it to be not only a fan film come to life, but a live-action Spider-Verse movie. I thought it was really outstanding. It was great seeing Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man along with Tom Holland Spider-Man. It was really outstanding. I really loved the movie, and the villains were great too. You got Willem Dafoe back as the Green Goblin. You got Malcolm Merlina back as Doc Ock. You got Rise Ifrans as the Lizard, even though I wasn't crazy about him in the Amazing Spider, crazy about his look in the Amazing Spider-Man. And the first Amazing Spider-Man movie was good seeing him. I really liked the fact that Jamie Foxx as Electro got better material to work with. It was also good seeing Thomas Hayden Church's Sandman from Spider-Man 3, which in my opinion was one of the best, if not the best character of that movie. So with that being said, um, to me, it's Spider-Man: No Way Home is an excellent film. Next up on the list is Black Panther, Ryan Coogler's Black Panther from 2018. This movie's outstanding. Okay, I consider that movie for the most part an absolute masterpiece. I think it's an incredible film. I think it's one of the best films, one of the best comic books slash superhero films of all time. I really love that movie. I think it's one of the best in the MCU, and I know a lot of people were disappointed with Black Panther 2. I'm one of the majority that really liked. I'm one of those people that really liked it, but who the hell knows? And last, but certainly not least, of my honorable mentions is Captain America. Is the Russo brothers is Captain America: The Winter Soldier from 2014. For guys who are unaware, I reviewed the comic story arc, the comic version from 2005, 2006, back in November. Well, today I'm talking about the movie adaptation of the story arc. And to me, this is not only the best installment of the Captain America Steve Rogers trilogy, but so far, the best Captain America movie to date. I'm still looking forward to Captain America Brave New World with Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson. But to me, this is the quintessential Captain America movie to date. The action was great, the suspense was great, the intensity was great, the story was outstanding. Love Sebastian Stan reprising his role as Bucky Barnes, but this time as the Winter Soldier. Really, really love this movie. I think it's one of the best comic books or superhero films of all time. And I think a lot of people should really watch that movie. It's really outstanding. Now, with that being said, though, time to get into my top 10. Number 10 is Blade 2 from 2002, which was directed by Guillermo del Toro. I know one of my good friends, Rick Kent, didn't like this movie too much. I really like Blade 2, simply because of the fact that Blade going against more powerful new breed of vampires. I thought that was cool to me. I thought the action was great. I thought the CGI visual special effects, for the most part, were pretty damn good. I just really liked this movie as a whole. I thought it was an absolute blast of a film. I really, really love that movie. I think it's just absolutely fantastic. Next up on the list is Bryan Singer's X-Men Days of Futures Past from 2014. I really love this movie simply because I loved how the new cast and the old cast meshed well together. Now, for those of you who don't know, Days of Futures Past is a legendary and iconic storyline in X-Men history. It's widely regarded as one of the greatest X-Men comics of all, one of the greatest X-Men comic story arcs of all time. And I hate to say this for all the naysayers of the X-Men, it's for a good reason, because I read the story myself, and personally, I thought it was an outstanding read. It was written by Chris Claremont and drawn by John Byrne in the 1980s, and I still consider it to be one of the best X-Men comic books of all time. But the movie was fantastic. Granted, I didn't think it was as good as some of the other X-Men films X-Men and X-Men related films that I liked more. But I really thought it was an outstanding movie. It's definitely a great film in my opinion. Next up is Blade, the first movie from 1998. I love this movie. If you are like me, that grew up a fan of Blade through not only his guest star appearances in the 1994 Spider-Man animated series, but in the Wesley Snipes Blade trilogy, especially the first one, you know what I'm talking about. I absolutely love this movie. I thought it was an absolute blast. I know some people say the first two the Blade movies are a bit dated. To be honest with you, dated, schmated. I still love the first two films. Especially this one. To me, the first Blade movie from '98 is the best of the Blade movies. I absolutely love this film with a passion. It's a masterpiece in my eyes. Granted, maybe seem dated in today's time, but I don't care. I love this movie to death. Wesley Snipes. As much I know it sucks that Mahershala Ali's Blade movie is still in development hell. When I think of Blade, personally, I will always think of Wesley Snipes. That's just the way I feel. Next up, number 7. Number 7 is Sam Raimi's Spider-Man from 2002. I love Sam. For you guys who don't know, I'm a huge fan of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. It's one of my favorite movie franchises of all time. I still hold that franchise near and dear to my heart, especially this one. The first one is near and dear to my heart. I absolutely love this movie. This is the movie that introduced me to Spider-Man, but more importantly, made me the fan of Spider-Man that I am today. Probably if it wasn't for this movie, I probably would not have known about the character of Spider-Man, nor would have probably been interested in the character. So I really love this movie, and thank you, Sam Raimi. Number 6 is probably my favorite X-Men film of all time, X2, Bryan Singer's X2, X-Men United from 2003. I love the shit out of this movie because, the action I thought was great. The fight between Wolverine, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, and Kelly Hugh's Lady Deathstrike was off the charts. Brian Cox as William Stryker was fantastic. I really love this movie for a lot of reasons: the story, the action, the intensity. We got to see, Jean Grey starting to show her Phoenix power. By the way, I thought Famke Jensen not only was sexy, hot as hell as Jean Grey, but I thought she played the role very well. I really love this movie a lot. It is absolutely brilliant, and to me, an A+ film in my opinion. Now we're into the top 5 true believers, and number 5 is Joss Whedon's The Avengers from 2012, the one movie that really kicked and did phase 1 of the MCU with a bang, if you know what I mean. Let's see, we have Tom Hiddleston's performance as Loki. He was great. We got Mark Ruffalo probably giving, as much as I mostly enjoyed Mark Ruffalo's portrayal of the Hulk, I still think his best performance as the Hulk came in this movie, The Avengers from 2012. And I think this movie is absolutely amazing. Some people consider it underrated nowadays. I think it's still one of the best movies of all time, one of the best comic books or superhero films of all time, and still to this day, one of the best installments in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think the entire main cast of the Avengers movie played their parts extremely well, and I think this movie is incredible. Number 4 is probably a film that I consider to be the best installment of the Fox X-Men franchise, and that is James Mangold's Logan from 2017. Now, y'all, look. Hugh Jackman has done a great job as Wolverine, especially in the most recent Deadpool and Wolverine movie from last year. But personally, I still think his best performance as Wolverine came in Logan right here. Logan, Pitt, in most of the X-Men films, we got to see a Wolverine in his prime. But in this movie, Shookies, what would happen if Wolverine, in terms of his power, was past his prime? If he wasn't as powerful, if he wasn't as durable, if he wasn't as, I wouldn't say as formidable, but it wasn't as efficient in terms of his power that he was in his prime. And what I mean is, he's nearly 200 years old. He's his healing factor is not the same, and because of that, his adamantium skeleton is poisoning him. It's killing him basically, and it's basically Wolverine dying, basically. And I thought Hugh Jackman really showcased that extremely well, and I thought he did a hell of a job in this movie. Patrick Stewart was great as Professor Charles Xavier, and of course, Daphne Keane was amazing as X-23 Laura Kinley, aka Wolverine's daughter. I thought this movie was incredible. Next up on the number three is by far my favorite non-MCU Marvel film of all time, as well as my favorite Spider-Man film of all time, and that's Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 from 2004. The first Spider-Man movie introduced me to Spider-Man. The second one told me what the type of character Spider-Man is, and that he's not like Superman, where he's an alien from another planet trying to blend in with humanity. He's not like Batman, Iron Man, nor Green Arrow, where he's a wealthy billionaire playboy philanthropist. Spider-Man is just a regular guy. As Stan Slott once said, he's basically the guy next door. And that's basically what Spider-Man is. That's why it makes him so freaking relatable, such an interesting character. And I thought this movie did a great job. Tobey Maguire, in my opinion, as much as I loved him in Spider-Man No Way Home and even the most part in Spider-Man 3, and of course in the first one, I think this was still his best performance as his iteration of Spider-Man. I thought he did a hell of a job with that character. I really, really believe it. I really, really do. Spider-Man 2 from 2004 to me is still one of the best damn comic book / superhero films of all time. Number 2 is Avengers Endgame, the Russo brothers, which the Russo brothers directed back in 2019. I love this movie simply because we got to see, we got to see a really good story, really good drama for the most part, really good character development, a really interesting plot, a really interesting tactic the Avengers came up with. Great action scenes, the badass Captain America scene, Captain America proving himself worthy to lift Mjolnir, him shouting Avengers Assemble, seeing all the major Marvel heroes that got killed by Thanos' snap in the previous film. come back and help out was great. But obviously, the reason why it's the runner up on this is because obviously I wasn't really crazy about Drunk Thor or Fat Thor, whatever you want to call him. And I hated how they rushed and poorly did the whole Professor Hulk thing. I think they did it such a terrible job with that. I think the comics did it much, much better. How they rushed the whole Professor Hulk thing, how they did the whole Professor Hulk thing was absolutely atrocious. I may talk about that in a future video. But with that being said, um, how they did the whole Professor Hulk thing, I thought was absolutely abysmal. That sort of thing. Now, the number one top spot of my favorite Marvel Comics, live action Marvel Comics movies of all time, and that's the film that I just briefly mentioned in my talk, Avengers Endgame, and that is Avengers Infinity War, which was also directed by the Russo brothers, which came out back in 2018. Holy shit, what can I say about this movie other than the fact the only negative is that it began the downfall of Mark Ruffalo's Hulk in the MCU. Hopefully they'll bring him back to his badassery, which he was from the first Avengers. Well, the MCU Hulk, excuse me, from the Incredible Hulk to Thor Ragnarok. But uh, outside, since Avengers Infinity War, I think the Hulk as a character really went downhill afterwards, and that pissed off a lot of fans, including myself. But outside of that, I mean, we got to see Thor wield a new weapon called Stormbreaker, which is actually Beta Ray Bill's weapon in the comic books, which is interesting. But most importantly, we get to see two big things from this movie. One, Josh Brolin's Thanos, who was amazing. And number two, most importantly, we get to see many of our favorite Marvel heroes from the comic books, especially the ones that were established in the MCU, team up and kick ass and take names on the big screen. That was off the chain. That's what I wanted to see the most in this movie. Um, that is it. Those are my top 10 favorite Marvel live action and Marvel Comics films of all time. And I even gave out some honorable mentions on the list. And yeah, that's about it. Hope you guys enjoy the list now. Let's see who's here. I see 3 people watching, but only 3 people in the chat. But only 1% in the chat. We see Jets mess in the chat. Where's Jake Asman? God. I mean, while Ohio State is destroying Oregon, Oregon's supposed to be the number one team in the country, and Ohio State is kicking their asses. Oregon can't look. Ohio State is number 8. Oregon is number 1, and they are getting obliterated right now. They are getting freaking obliterated right now. Holy shit. I got 4 people watch, but only 1 person in the chat. Come on, everybody, show up. Here he comes. I feel bad for Oregon right now, but then maybe I should. What am I looking at? I'm watching the Oregon and Ohio State game. Ohio State's getting blown. Ohio State's destroying Oregon 31-0 so far. Oh, look at this shit. Yeah, it's a big blow. Ohio State is destroying them. I can't show you the game on my computer screen, so I'll get copyright strike, but I have it on my TV, so sorry. She just made dinner. We had ziti, sausages, meatballs, pork loin. It's good shit, man. Some penne ziti, what the hell she wanted to call it. Now, for those of you who are attending, i.e., Jets mess, stay tuned tonight for 8 o'clock for the third and final episode of the day, or for the final episode of today. I will give you guys a list of my top 10 favorite characters of the Marvel Cinematic Universe franchise. So stay tuned for that. It'll air on 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. So if you don't want to miss it, please hit the subscribe button. And those of you who want to subscribe to my channel, please hit that subscribe button and hit the notification button. 374 yards to 64. Oh my God, look at this shit. Carnell Tate. Brian Hartline, he was a decent receiver in the NFL. I think he used to play most of his career with the Dolphins, I think. Ugh. These fucking bitches. Take the points. Don't be stupid. You know what, guys? I'm going to end the stream shortly. I know you guys wanted to spend some more time with me, but since there's not many people in the chat, I'm going to end the stream. Have a good day, all right? See you around 8 o'clock. Peace out.